Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my community needs assessment for APN 735, and my main focus will be on malnutrition in the elderly. So a little bit about who I am. My name is Sarah Deeds. I'm a registered dietitian. I practice in Southern Indiana. So as you hear me talk about this presentation and about this assessment, it's all going to be focused on that region, and it's going to be focused in the county that I live in right now. So I got my bachelor's from Purdue University, and currently I am working on my master's in applied nutrition through the University of New England. I've been a registered dietitian since June 2013, and currently I'm working as a clinical community nutrition manager. So when we were tasked with this assignment, I really reflected upon the work that I do on a daily basis and what I have done in the past 5 years at my community hospital. And so often we see the same individuals coming through the hospital, and typically they're all 65 years and older. And we kind of call them our repeat offenders because you see that name and you get, acclimated with that individual. So I kind of started asking myself, why are they coming back in so often? What's bringing that person back so many different times, and how can we impact that from a nutrition standpoint? So to kind of back up a little bit, I also have a strong passion for public health, and part of my community work that I do is I work with United Way, and what that is that's an organization that helps to raise funds within the community to kind of give it back to those who need it to get back on their feet. And they have three main building blocks, which include health, education, and income. So, of course, that's where I tie back in as a registered dietitian is the health piece. So this past fall, I was on their appropriations committee, and what I do as that committee member is I interview the different community organizations that are looking for money at that point in time. And one of those happened to be Generations, which you can see here on the slide that they are an Area 13 agency on aging and disability. And whenever I interviewed with a representative from Generations, I was floored. I've been here for 5 years and I had no clue that they did as many different things that they do within our community and within kind of the surrounding 6 communities in this area. So that kind of led me to believe, like, we have these community organizations. How can we tie these to our seniors that are coming back into the hospital? How can we, pull together these sources of Generations with their Meals on Wheels program and their congregate meal sites? How do we connect those pieces to make it work, to make others healthier? So that leads us directly into my target population for this community needs assessment. And this was developed throughout the assessment, but I want to give you the end piece to give you an idea of where we will be going today. So my population were seniors aged 65 years and older who reside at home in Daviess County, Indiana, that may be or at risk of malnutrition. And I really felt that we need to focus as a community on how we can keep our seniors at home and keep them healthier at home. So to give you a bit of a reflection of Daviess County, we are a little over 33,000 residents, and we are down in that bottom left corner on the state of Indiana. We have over 5,000 seniors that are over 65 years of age, which that's about 15.2% of our population, which is really reflective of the senior population in the United States. So subtract senior growth within the U.S. Back in 2000, there was about 35 million. In 2016, it was documented at 49.2 million. And anyone that's in the healthcare industry, or just really anyone in general, can tell you that's only going to continue to grow. So to look into the health issue that I was really focusing on with this assessment, I wanted to give you the textbook definition of malnutrition. So malnutrition is defined as a state in which a deficiency, excess, or imbalance of energy, protein, and other nutrients causes adverse effects on body form, function, and clinical outcome. But as someone who works in the healthcare field, I can tell you that malnutrition is not a textbook definition. It's something that has many influencers. And learning about those different influencers is how we connect these pieces to help our senior citizens live a better life at home. So to give you how widespread this is just a small list of influencers on malnutrition. Some of the big ones that I see regularly are dementia, difficulty swallowing, the chronic illness, the diet restrictions, limited income. That's huge for our seniors. So often they're faced with choosing their medications versus buying food for the month. So that's where I kind of want to pull in these community resources to help them live a better life. So you may be asking yourself, what is the malnutrition prevalence? So there was a review that found in non-institutionalized older adults, the prevalence was 1 to 15%. Those in the nursing home, they found malnutrition to be 25 to 60%. And those that are hospitalized was 35 to 65%. So you may be thinking, well, why is this an issue when those adults at home aren't any higher than 15%? Well, what happens is when those older adults at home are at risk for it and they aren't getting adequate meals and they're not building up their nutrition reserves, when they go into the hospital or they become ill, they don't recover nearly as quickly, and then it kind of progresses to where maybe they need to be at a nursing home, and it just kind of follows that path of worsening nutrition status. So that's why I wanted to focus at home to give them that reserve before they do get ill. So you can see too, it's impacted by biomedical issues, psychosocial issues, environmental, and economic. There's all kinds of pieces to this malnutrition. So when I completed my community needs assessment, I found several senior resources within the community that I had known about and others that I really hadn't fully connected with. And the big one is Generations, but they're spread pretty thin. They're within 6 counties in southern Indiana, and they're based on government funding and donations. And then you have Senior and Family Services, which is more of a brick and mortar building here in Washington where seniors can go to gather for education or those congregate meals or help with filling out any kind of forms they may need. We also have Connections, which is a place where you can call if you need help and you need help to be connected to these different organizations in the community. However, they're targeted more towards young families, so they don't really work within the geriatric population, but they will connect it if they need to. There's also Purdue Extension, which on their website they didn't really promote any senior citizen programs as of right now, but they did boast that they would help with any kind of community coalitions or with fundraising as well for community projects. Then we also have food banks, but if you're a homebound senior and no help from family, you're not going to be able to get there. And then seniors are eligible for SNAP, but not as many seniors understand that or know that they are. So as a part of this assessment as well, I did a key informant interview and I spoke with Stacey Kari, and she is the Director of Operations at Generations, and she's very knowledgeable about my target population, which was fantastic. And she kind of gave me the impression that there were really 3 main struggles for them right now, and those are the knowledge of programs. People don't really use Generations until they're in a really dire situation, and she wants to change it to where folks are set up before they're really ill and desperately need it. And then also there's funding. So there's government funding, but that's been decreasing over the years. And then there's also the funding from individuals that are donating it to them. And really they live on those donations. And if that kind of goes away, then they have to start putting seniors on a wait list. And then also there's a stigma of programs. Some of the younger individuals in this population tend to say they don't want to go to the congregate meal sites because that's where all the old people go, which I found quite funny. But, we want to look and see how we can bring these individuals in. And also, too, I wanted to show some of America's health rankings about Indiana. During my community needs assessment, that's what I found, that Indiana was 39th overall in health, and that we had an increase in food insecurity, that our home delivered meal rates were low overall in the whole state, and we were lacking geriatricians, SNAP reach, health screenings, and preventable hospitalizations. And there are about 49 million Americans over 65 years in the U.S., but about 8 million of them face hunger, which is a huge bottom line. So my proposed solution at the completion of my assessment was to start a coalition for the aging, which included advocacy for funds and for the programs themselves, research into what this population really wants, the different age groups, communication about what's going on, togetherness. I want to pull in all these community resources so they don't feel like we're trying to replace them, and have them provide their knowledge and what they know and help pull everybody together so then we can understand what programs they have going on and we can promote them. And I also want to use it for education, whether it's the target population or their caretakers or family. I want to give education to how they can have a healthier nutrition at home. And then there's also going to be community involvement between key stakeholders, and then I want some sustained efforts and support. So pulling in those key stakeholders again of the different community organizations and government officials and maybe some case managers from our hospital. So really the rationale of our coalition is to be more preventative versus reactive. We want to strengthen those community efforts. We want to provide more services to our folks in the area. and I think there's a low upfront startup cost, and we can really make a strong impact on the quality of life of our seniors. So I want to thank you for your time, and there's some references slide if you want to look a little closer to those. Thank you so much.